Thank you and welcome. I'm very impressed with your work through the years and continue to be amazed at some of it. In fact, you're able to get information that we're not able to get. We have such great resistance from executive branch of either party that everything's hidden from the people, the people's representatives, and from the people. Recently, you were commissioned to look at spending through our agencies that has gone to China, and you found that there's 48 million that you can locate so far that went to China. But what was extraordinary, and still is extraordinary, I think has not really fully been recognized, is that you actually discovered that money was going from American universities and being subcontracted to military research in China. So people would be kind of amazed that we're actually funding research in China since we have such an adversarial relationship, but we're actually funding military research. So there's an Academy of Military Medical Sciences, AMMS, and you identified, I think you've publicly identified at least two of the universities with subgrants there, Duke and UC Berkeley. We have people thinking there may be as many as 6 or 7 other universities that are subcontracting this. UC Davis, UTMB, Galveston, University of Wisconsin-Madison, University of North Carolina, and University of Minnesota. And we'd appreciate it, I'd like to hear your response if you know any more about it, but also to look into those, because I think there's a question of whether it's being done appropriately, honestly, and actually, frankly, legally. Are you aware of any other universities that you can tell us that are subcontracting grants to China?
Yeah, not offhand. I will, talk to our team, and if we do have something, I'll submit it for the record. Part of the problem is there can be an award to a university, and then there's sub-awards from the universities to different areas, and it can go on even a little further than that, and it's hard to track the sub-awards. We're looking at that now. We're also looking at the federal government's coordination of research in international areas, and so we have a separate effort to look at that right now.
In looking at these subcontracts, are you looking at whether or not they're obeying the law as to the rules as to how you're allowed to subcontract it? Do you look at the False Claims Act, or are you looking at legality as well as good policy?
Well, we're looking at how the agencies are structuring the awards and what kind of requirements that they have. I have a little concern that in some of the preliminary briefings that I've heard that we're not striking these agreements in a way that protects the federal government's interest as appropriately as possible. So that
basically everything we know, we've learned some from the GAO, and almost everything else we know is from Freedom of Information Act. The agencies will give us nothing. And so recently we voted unanimously to declassify all of the COVID origins material to give it to us. That doesn't mean they'll give it to us. So we've been asking for declassified information for 2 years and we get squat. In fact, from a Freedom of Information Act, we have 2 people at DTRA talking to each other, Defense Threat Reduction Agency in the Department of Defense, and they're talking to each other and they're saying, well, we're reviewing EcoHealth, but it looks like EcoHealth is doing things with the dollars beyond the definition of what they're supposed to be doing. And the lead researcher at DTRA writes back and says, well, we probably should change the wording because if someone ever FOIAs that, that's not going to look good. Can you imagine these people? They also have exchanges going back and forth saying, Senator Paul has requested this, but he's doing it by himself because we can't get a Democrat to help us, and so we're not going to give it to him. They actually are discussing that. So anything you can do, I trust your honesty, your integrity, and that you will try. We need your help because government is so out of control that we can't get information. We complain about the Chinese government. We can't get information from our own government. So we now have unanimously passed things to declassify things. They're still holding on to all the information. They won't give it up. We're still wrangling. We have not yet gotten one Democrat chairman to sign one letter of request for records. So this is a real problem. And the thing is I don't do this for partisan reasons. My concern is, and there are people, scientists saying this, that the next pandemic that escapes from a lab could kill as much as 5% or even as much as 50% of the people on the planet. This is what we're looking at. We can create monstrous super viruses and nobody seems to care whether this came from a lab. So I appreciate what you're doing. I'm very interested in the other universities because they do gain-of-function research. They've collaborated with China. But I'm also interested in the military aspect of this. People talk about viruses of having dual use. Well, you can do it to look for vaccines. Everybody wants a vaccine. but it also could be a weapon. So everybody's always talked about dual use in this research, but we typically ostensibly only worked with other countries in the civilian area. It boggles my mind that nobody seems to know that universities, and y'all discovered this, which is amazing, that our universities are giving the money, subcontracting it to Academy of Military Medical Research, where the scientist there has not the title of doctor, but general and colonel in the People's Liberation Army. So this is something that I can just only encourage you. We will be asking you also to do more of it, and we will be trying to get the other side to agree to help us find out more information. But we would like to encourage this. I would also like to, I'm sure you have a team that has been doing this, if you would allow them to come and visit with us and talk more about what they have, because sometimes we read a conclusion and they might give us better ideas of things that we want to look at as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there was a couple of other, I guess the main thing is to isolate in on what are the rules for these things, whether people are obeying the rules on the subcontracting. And just by not listing it, that can be more than an oversight. That can be actually obscuring where the money's going as well. But I appreciate your work on that, and we would like to get back with you further to talk about if we can talk to your team individually. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm equally concerned about this issue, and we will continue to focus on it. Be happy to work with your staff.